All right, and continue.
Okay, my wife having 2 more years in high school, but I got her approval and left her with her mom and whatnot and went on the road with the Pilgrim Jubilees. So I'm traveling now singing gospel music with a group who had, at that time, a hit song entitled Stretch Out. And of course, they were out of Chicago, so we traveled for 3 years. And after the third year, my wife sent for me and said, me or the group. And oh boy, this was disappointing, but I gave up the group. And that was the last time I rode the train all the way from Chicago back to Shreveport. There was an aunt that I could live with when I was in Chicago. She had been living there many years. So I came back home, and then, of course, after coming back home, the only work I knew to do at that time, I had been a busboy, but I knew how to wait tables and whatnot. So now I got a job at the Fountain Apartments on Fairfield. That round building is still there. And I'm thinking everything's going to be all right. I'm back home now. But while I was there, after coming home, my wife left me. And I said, wow, now I've given up the group. I came home, got me a job. We have our own place and whatnot. I had gotten 3 rooms of furniture at Walker's and Rohde. Having a furniture company on model. Yeah, I'm thinking about the music. But anyway, she left me. And when she left me, I says, well, I'm not going and get her. I gave up the group and came home. She left me. So if she don't come back in 30 days, that's it. At the end of 30 days, she hadn't made it. So I said, okay, I'm not going to play any more gospel music. And by being on the road with the Jew, I had gotten the name Eddie. Clay had started calling me Eddie. I said, I'm going to put together me a band, Eddie Giles and the Jive Five. So I started seeking out musicians and whatnot at that time. And at the end of 30 days, my wife hadn't returned. So I said, well, that's it. I got rid of all of the furniture. I didn't need 3 rooms of furniture. All I needed was just a little place to live myself, so that's what I got, and got rid of the furniture. Now I would take my guitar work with me at the fountain, and when we served lunch, when I finished, I said, well, no point in going home because I don't have nothing to go home to, so I'm just going to go in the basement and practice. That gave me a chance to practice. That's what I wanted to do anyway. And so I said, I'm going to write me a hit song. I predicted, I said, I'm going to write me a hit song. So now I would take my pen and pad, and I went downstairs. I knew 3 chords. And of course, in knowing the 3 chords, I started writing. I wrote down a title first. I wrote down Lonely Boy. Then I said, well, no, that's not strong enough. And I wrote Losing Boy. And then I said, that's it. Now I start asking myself questions. Well, why am I a losing boy? Well, I'm a losing boy because my baby is gone. I got the lovesick blues. All I can do is weep and moan. I have lost my baby, and I don't mean maybe. And that makes me a losing boy. I said, that first one. Then I said, well, I'm through with romance, and I'm giving up love. I'm even through counting the stars above. I have lost my chance and her romance. So that makes me a losing boy. I said, I've got 2 verses. Now I need a chorus. We call it a bridge. I said, you don't know what this woman meant to me. If you did, you would say, Eddie, you have my sympathy. I'm like Ray Charles. I guess I was born to lose. I lost my baby when I lost you, and I start screaming, oh, yeah. Now, we're talking about the then, and of course, this beautiful guitar right here, I'm just going to kind of show you a little example of what it was at that time, and after learning to play the guitar, um, and putting the music to the only three chords that I knew of. And of course, that's in the key of C. And then, of course, I would make the F and then the G, which was my turnaround chord. So, in my own creation, I wanted to be different from anybody else. I wanted my music that when the intro is played, they would know that's Eddie Giles and not someone else. So playing and singing my own music, I came up with an intro. And of course, I've shared with you the verses, but that was the tune of the song. So, after writing this song, and the band that I had, we were playing for different clubs, sorority clubs, and whatnot, and we got popular. So then I was approached by DeMarais, who had Bayou Record Shop in Cedar Grove. And he said, I heard about you all, and you all seem to be pretty popular in the city. I say, well, thank you. And he said, you ever thought about recording? I said, no. I haven't thought about that. And I said, in fact, we don't have nothing to record. So he said, well, I got some music that you can listen to. And after listening to the music that he had, it didn't fit the market that I felt that, we would be playing to. So I realized what I had wrote. And then he said, well, I need an A and B selection. So the story of Losing Boy, with those same lyrics, I turned around and came up with kind of a bluesy sound in a minor key. And the flip side of Losing Boy is I got the blues. Because if you're a losing boy, yes, you sure enough got the blues. So it went like this. In my life, the blues have come. My days and nights are lonesome, 'cause my baby is gone. Well, I'm hurting so bad, 'cause it hurts when you lose. I've lost my baby, and now I got the blues. And of course, that was the flip side. So we left and went to Tyler, Texas on a Sunday afternoon, and at Robin Hood Bain Studio in Tyler, Texas. And within an hour or so, we were through with the recording, because I did 3 takes on Losing Boy and a few takes on the flip side. And the producer, which was DeMarais, he was happy with what we had done. And of course, he did a simple mix, gave me a copy of that, and we came back to Shreveport, and he started playing it in the record shop there for different people who would come by, and of course people who were buying R&B music at that time also had heard of us because we were popular, playing in a lot of clubs and whatnot, and so they wanted to buy it. I mean, before he even got the records pressed. So that inspired him to hurry up and take it and get some records pressed and put it out on a Merco label, and he did that. Well, now, this particular song, again, at the station where I work now, had no idea that I would be in radio, but got a copy of it and started playing it, and everybody wanted to know who that was. And that was yours truly, the little country boy who wrote a true story, a song that was a true story of my life and my first marriage. And that record sold some 2,000 copies alone right here in the city of Shreveport. Well, then there was someone in Dallas, Texas that they made contact with. And when Dallas got it, that's a major market. So it sold 10,000 copies. Selling 10,000 copies there, then it got too big for Merco to handle it with their production. So then my contract was subleased to, I don't know whether you recall the Stan record shop, but then they picked up the publishing on it, and when they did, there was an announcer called Horace Allen that was working on WLAC in Nashville, Tennessee. And late at night, St. Louis had a slot on his particular show, and he started playing Losing Boy, and when he did, it just went out through the mountains and all on the East Coast. And that song broke out, and of course we've got engagement all the way on the East Coast into Mississippi, into Flint, Michigan, Betty Swan's hometown. Losing Boy had sold, so we got booked in the Regal Theater in Chicago, Illinois. And believe it or not, he's gone home to be with the Lord now, but Michael Jackson, that's where we saw him in Gary, Indiana, which is about 12 or 15 miles, I guess, outside of Chicago from the Regal. But we stopped in Gary, Indiana, and it wasn't Michael Jackson or the Jackson 5 then, it was just the Jackson 5. And we also went by the Miller Brewer Place there, with saw the Bigfoot, white horses, and all that kind of stuff. But we came to the Regal where we were performing, and Losing Boy, I had talked with an announcer there, and he told me that that record sold 70,000 copies alone in Chicago. And I was walking downtown from the hotel where we was living, and I picked up a Jet magazine. And of course, they kept the top 20 in there. And when I looked in the Jet magazine, Losing Boy was number 18. I said, wow. I ran back to the hotel and told the guys all about it and said, man. Okay, now the big surprise came that night when we get to the Regal and go into the dressing room, and a band was already playing. The place was already packed full of people, and a band was playing. So my drummer decided he would go out and check the place out, and he did, and he came back. He said, man, so guess who's playing out there? I said, who? Jimi Hendrix. I said, what? Now, I'd heard of Jimi Hendrix, but I said, you mean we got to go on after him? I said, man, we better pack up and go back to Shreveport because, Jimi Hendrix. So I was a little nervous, but I got up and eased around and peeped, and after I saw him, he had his guitar, and of course, had all the string laying off of it, and the crowd was just right there, and they was just screaming and whatnot, and he was putting some more strings on his guitar. He had bass player in one corner, and the drummer, and then himself on the guitar. And I said, wow. I said, these people is not going to enjoy us at all. So it came our time to go out. Okay, so we've got Eddie Giles and the Jive Five. We got Dory Grayson. We got Reuben Bell and the Bell Tone. So we had a complete show. And when they got through with their preliminaries, and then my time came for me to perform, and I got on the stage and played Losing Boy, that was it. It was it. And we were so received and excited. When we got through and got back to the hotel, we got a call from the agent say, you all stay where you are because you all will be back in the Regal next week. And of course, we were excited, so we didn't have to go anywhere. So now we, instead of 1 week, one night in performance, no, we got 2 nights performance, just stay in the hotel. So we did. And then we played and came back home, but we found out that the next week we were supposed to have been at the Apollo. Stevie Wonder, I think, and Freddie King, one of the, they was going to be on the show with us. And when I found out that we were supposed to be at the Apollo, I got upset then because we never got a chance to get to the Apollo. And I know they had a crowd there because a guy named Eddie King, his name was Eddie, called me, and but this was later years down the road, 10 years down the road. He said, you know, we waited in line, thinking you all were going to show up. And I said, when I grow up, because he was a blues player himself, he said, I'm going to record Losing Boy. And I have a recording of where he did it. He more or less played it on the guitar. But he, his name was Eddie King, and he called to get permission to record Losing Boy. There are at least 2 or 3 artists have recorded Losing Boy, because Little Milton nephew recorded it, and Eddie King recorded it. So the song now is still popular right today. In many foreign countries, being a BMI writer, I still receive royalties from Losing Boy and some other songs that I've written. But that's more or less what you would call the end of Eddie Giles and the Jive Five. After 10 years, a family of 5 traveled on the road in a bluish green Lincoln 1967 town car, Lincoln town car with 4 doors, suicide doors open and whatnot, with a U-Haul trailer behind and all the equipment. And we enjoyed those years out there, and somehow, after 10 years, we just went our different ways and whatnot. So now it was time to come home and to stay home. And that's what we did. Most of the guys went that way. Caveman, who was the drummer, he's the only one that's deceased. James Stewart was a sax player. He's still here. He works for the City Drive Bus. Charlie Brown lives in Atlanta. He's singing gospel. He's a preacher. And of course, myself. When we recorded Losing Boy, we only used 4 tracks. Bass player was on 1 track, drummer was on 1 track, horn player on 1 track. My voice and my guitar playing was on the same track. And that was a hit song. And it was our own style. We had our own style. I kind of think we were ahead of the game as far as rhythm and blues, even during our time, because later came groups like the Impressions and Curtis Mayfield and the Impression. And of course, at the same time, you've got the Four Tops and all these groups out there. Clarence Carter and Johnny Taylor and Reverend Al Green. In fact, my band, we played behind Reverend Al Green in Temple, Texas, I think it was. And then we opened up for Gladys Knight and the Pips in Dallas. We, God bless her heart, she's 73, and I thought we was about the same age, but my sympathy goes out to Etta Jane. We were on the same show at the Empire Room in Dallas, Texas, and the admission was $2. and the tables was free. But I never shall forget that we were on stage together with her. So, being 73, and God is still blessing me, I'm just grateful to still be here on top of the ground instead of the other way around. So more or less, that's the then.
Let me stop you right here. Yeah.